podcast. I'm joined by Dixon DeLorme,
Thanks
better
for having
known
me, man.
as Quick Dick, Big Dick.
What are the chances of that, right?
Well, cheers to you, sir. Thanks for coming on.
Yeah, you too. Thanks, man. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Well, we're going to start first off with where the name Quick Dick McDick came from.
Well, I started actually using it on my Tinder profile, and it didn't catch me anything on it, so I just switched it over to Snapchat, and then kind of went.
You did
from there.
not use it on Tinder.
No, I did not.
That would be.
No. Yeah, well, lots of people are like, "What? You what?" I'm like, "No, I didn't." But it's no, actually, yeah, it's just man, it just started off as my Snapchat handle, like just on a random whim, which is how 90% of this shit comes to me. Is I can say shit here, right? We're okay with
Absolutely, yeah. Well, I mean, we're going to apologize right now to both mothers that are going to listen to this. You
Mom,
might want to put earmuffs on. Earmuffs.
Yeah, it just that's almost this shit comes to me, just like spur of the moment. It's just I was just dreaming up a Snapchat handle kind of thing or whatever, and like I mean, obviously my name's Dixon, so Dick for short. I mean, I've been a dick all my life, you know what I mean. So it just kind of seemed to be what worked for it, you know what I mean. And yeah, that was it. It was a Snapchat handle. Is where it came from. Totally left field.
Was Dixon a family name, or did they just pull Dixon out of the blue?
You know what? I don't even. They just said it was something that they'd come across and that they liked it for a long time, and they spelled it Dickson. And even when people try and spell it, it's like it's Dixon. You know, it's another thing you got to deal with all your life, kind of thing. And they just went with it. And yeah, then you introduce yourself to people. They're like, "Yes, what's your name?" "Name's Dixon." "Oh, okay. What's your first name?" "Yeah, that's my first name. It's Dixon." "Oh, well, that just seems like a last name." Yeah, I know. I've heard that 8 billion times throughout my life, but yeah.
Well, you're from Tufnell, Saskatchewan, correct?
Tufnell, Saskatchewan, yeah.
And
I was born in Maple Creek, actually, but like my memories of life are here in Tufnell, right?
Well, a fun fact about Maple Creek is
I love fun facts.
Before we got recording, I told you that a brother and I and a friend had biked across Canada back in 2006, and we stayed at the sketchiest motels ever across all of Canada, and Maple Creek might be our favorite one.
It's the like, one right. Was it Jack's Motor Inn out on the highway, or was
out
it
on the highway
right on the junction? Oh, it's glorious. That should be in some kind of a movie somewhere.
Yes, it should.
Where that thing should be, because you wouldn't have to do a scene set or anything on it. Like it'd just be, yeah. Whether you're looking to contract some kind of an STD in this movie, or whether you're looking to get killed or kill somebody, yeah, kind of thing, right?
Believe me, we stayed in some unique places. Let's leave it at that. And that one, if you were to ask Lori or Dustin, the two I biked with, that one is one of the most memorable. There's only one other one, and it was north of Montreal, and it was just as good. The cleaning lady was carrying the towels in a little toy a toy wagon with a big smoke hanging from her lip. And
that's really nice.
When we went to pay, bulletproof glass. And on the
so
thing
you know she's safe at least, right?
That's right. So, yeah. And then on the window, or the sign that tells you all the lovely features it had like air conditioning, laundry
cable
service.
TV? Did it have cable?
Actually, XXX Movies. That was number 3, and we were sold. We're like, get us a room.
Extra for that. Yeah, no, that's a place. You know what? It's almost fun when you're bike tripping. Like the dingier the place you're staying at,
it's the better.
Like
the better.
Yeah, it's like you look at it, you're like, I'm just gonna leave the clothes on tonight. We'll call it good. You know what I mean? Shouldn't be a problem.
Yeah.
Well, there's some dingy ones out there, man. I've stayed in some like trucking through a lot of like camp areas and stuff in northern Alberta, BC, Northwest Territories and stuff like that. Like you find some pretty sketchy places, but oh man, yeah, there's been some beauties.
What is the one that sticks out the most then to you?
It was right close to Grand Prairie, at a town called McLennan, and it's just a no-brainer. This was it, and it was they were trying to do some kind of a reno, and it was some folks that had bought the McLennan Hotel, we were up there I was up there with one of my buddies. We were working on putting a truck back together, and we wound up working late and didn't want to go back to Grand Prairie. We're like, let's go to McLennan, grab a room, and then we'll go finish the truck in the morning. And this guy's just like, hey, I got one room. That's all I got. And it's like, it's midnight, and you're just like, you're done. I don't care what the room's like, whatever. Well, we need some beer, so you're in the hotel. Like it's the old hotel, like the old hotel where the bar's downstairs, the rooms are upstairs, kind of thing. Every small town's got these or whatever, right? And so we're like, well, we need at least a 6-pack of beer. And he's like, okay, no problem. I don't sell 6-packs in a box or anything like that. He gets a paper bag and gets us 6 bottles of beer out of the cooler and sells us off sale like that. I'm not sure if it's legal, but I won't say his name, so we won't worry about it. And we go up to this room, and literally, like, there's it's just bitched. Like it is something like you've never seen. I even keep my own room in my house cleaner than this thing. So we're like, okay, you know what? Coveralls on, maybe sleeping on these beds, and we'll just call it good enough. And literally, I kind of roll over just to see what's kicking around, and there's like old disposable razors underneath the bed and stuff like that. I was like, yep, this is the worst I've ever seen her. This one is, yeah. One other time, snowdrift in the hotel room in the morning when we woke up in Fort St. John. If anyone stayed in Fort St. John, BC, and been to the Northwoods, they tore it down here, I guess, recently, but that was another beauty to stay in all the time. Yeah.
And all I heard out of that was a 6-pack in a paper bag. And the crazy thing is I've been to bars like that in Saskatchewan, where they'll sell you a 6-pack of bottles in the paper bag, and on your way you go.
Love it. Give it to me in a milk crate, in a plastic bag. If I got to carry 6, I'll just carry 6. As long as I got beer, I'm happy, right?
That's true. Speaking of Tufnell, Saskatchewan, I love it. I was saying this off air as well. Is I love it because it's a hamlet. And when I was looking it up, I went, I'm from a hamlet. And I thought I was, not unique in any stretch of the imagination. But when you come from a hamlet and you explain that to people, they're like, a what now? It's like, well, we got more cats and dogs than people.
Yeah, but so we call it a metropolis because there is a post office and a curling rink. So there's that, right? And like, I mean, I didn't grow up in Tufnell itself. Like, I mean, we were about 5 miles north of Tufnell on a federal community pasture. Actually, I was the luckiest guy on planet Earth. I grew up. I had a real cowboy dad. I grew up on a big, massive federal community pasture, and that's all I knew from a very young age was just cowboying and agricultural ways of life. Tufnell is just where we got our mail. You know what I mean? That's where the post office was. So it was a big deal to go 5 miles into Tufnell to see the post office, let alone anything else. Like, I mean, if you talk going into Foam Lake, which is the closest town, man, like you even tried to get some good clothes on to go do that. You know what I mean? Like it was a big deal, right? 14 whole miles, man. Like that is a road trip.
That is a road trip. That's at least a couple beer, right?
At the time we were too young for it, but yeah. Actually, once you grew up to the age of drinking beer and getting to town, you actually found ways to extend it into at least 6 beer to get to town. You know what I mean? But you'd swing around. Somebody else driving all the time, of course, right? Wheel around to the buddies, pick up all the boys, go on a little bit of a tear. Yeah, like you could go a roundabout to the curling rink. Yeah, exactly, right? And then go throw some wicked interns. And no, it was deadly. That is great. Just an amazing place to grow up. Yeah, really, really awesome.
Community pasture manager, right? That's what your dad did? Or
That's
did?
Right. Yeah,
does?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, did. Yeah, he actually retired. He was with the federal government, I think, for almost 30 years. Started at age 17 just as a pasture rider, and then just kind of worked his way up to a pasture manager, into a land manager and whatnot. And yeah, he had a very long career as a pasture manager.
Who knew? I would have never, I never would have. I mean, there's community pastures out around us too, right? I just would have never ever thought of a guy has to sit and manage it.
Yeah, so and a lot of guys were working managers kind of thing, which is just like any business. I mean, but in all reality, if you have like, I think there was around 12 to 1,500 head rolling through that community pasture at any given time. Obviously, there's bigger and smaller ones out there, kind of thing. But I mean, somebody's got to be accountable for it. You know what I mean? There's a whole bunch of random peoples, not random peoples, but patrons, cattle in the pasture, and somebody's got to be ultimately responsible for it. So it was him, and then into working riders there that actually looked after the place. Coincidentally, since the federal the PFRA, the Prairie Farm Rehabilitation Act, has actually closed down all of their federal pastures. There's still lots of provincial pastures that are up and operating, and then a lot of these federal ones have actually been closed down, and they're cooperatives now that are leased out to the patrons that used to be parts of them. But it was one of the very few sectors in the federal government that was actually turning a profit. So the federal government was like, well, we can't have that going on. So they just shut it all down. What? We're making money on something? No, shut her down. Right. That's how that works most of the time.
So your dad working for the federal government, is that where you get some of your like?
It's really not at all, actually. I had no feelings of angst. Let's call it angst towards the federal government at all. I mean, it in a lot of places you can look at the government as an employee of the government. You can look at it as working for a big corporation that's very top heavy is essentially how were I to work for the government, that's how I would assume it would be. It's a very top heavy corporation full of bureaucracy that you can't really get anything accomplished in. And if you're, maybe if you're somebody that stands out, that wants to make a big change in something you're doing, that's not an organization in which you're going to be able to do it, kind of thing. Same thing when you get into big unionized companies and things like that. If you want to call yourself a shining star or something like that wants to make a difference, those aren't the settings in which you're really going to be able to do it, because you get a very top heavy organization and then bureaucracy just kind of overminds everything and you're just smothered by it. Right. Does that make sense?
That does make sense. Absolutely. Yeah.
And I actually watched my dad go through it. I mean, that was one of the things I maybe learned is that, I think when it comes time for me to be me, it's not going to be with one of these big corporations or something like that happening, right? Which I've basically stuck to, through my life here. So,
well, before Quick Dick, what were you doing? Mm-hmm. I know you worked in the oil patch for a lot of years.
Yeah, oil and gas. So I was in Saskatchewan here right until I graduated at 17, just because I had a late birthday. I'd worked on custom hand crews here through the summer and stuff, and rodeoed and done a bunch of different things here right in Saskatchewan. And it's like a lot of Saskatchewan boys is, man, there's that big money to be made out in Alberta in the oil field. And I actually just wound up having a contact that got me a job on a frac crew in Brooks. And that was in the year 2000. And I went out there. I spent 3 years in Brooks. In a roundabout way, wound up on a frac crew up in Grand Prairie, north of Grand Prairie, and just fell head over heels in love with the Peace Country. It's beautiful up there, and lots of work, really busy, all kinds of things happening. I was a young guy, and it was really busy, and I just kept going up there. And I was actually in Grand Prairie until June of 2019.
Of 2019.
2019, man, yeah.
So the most obvious question is, how long have you been growing that beard for?
June 1st of 2019.
Really? How long?
Yeah. And I've had it trimmed quite a few times up until this pandemic hit. And then I'm just like, you know what? Just let her rip. No big deal. Just let her fly there.
So why the long career in the oil patch? And then
yeah, no, that's a great question. It was really good to me, Shaun. I'd never seen any of this stuff before, and that's where I think you see that in a lot of different walks of life, where people come into something that's brand new that they don't really know anything about. I mean, you could be a 40-year-old guy that just got out of a big lifelong career, say in the tire industry, and then you get onto a ranch that you've never been a part of. And somebody that's been a part of that for 40 years is going to be like, yeah, well, we're just going to go brand some calves today. And the guy that has done nothing but tires his whole life goes in and he's just like, this is what you guys do every day? Like, you're awestruck by it, right? And I was really lucky that I never stopped learning or learning new things about what was happening, and just wound up, everything just kept falling into place for me. And I found some good companies to get to be able to get some experience out of and get a great job and some great paychecks out of. And it was just really good to me. I never really had a reason to leave I guess. And it wasn't broke, so I didn't need to fix it. And I was kind of addicted to working a little bit, which worked out really good for the situation I was in. So I just kept the hammer down and kept slugging away. When '08 hit, it was pretty rough. But by no stretch of the imagination were we as bad off as the rest of the country was at the time. From '08 and then into the 2014s where things were insanely busy. I mean, that's where you saw a lot of growth in our country. And then from 2015 when a specific government started taking over, and you could just kind of see things just kind of slowly started kind of trending downwards, you know what I mean? And it just continued in that direction. I think it's still continuing in that direction, very sharply down still, right?
It's I had a picture sent to me. I haven't been able to find it online today, but a guy I work with had sent me a picture of the oil price, Western Canadian Select, as negative whatever. It was like negative dollar or whatever. And I haven't been able to see that since, but what you're talking about is, I mean, it wasn't that long ago we were complaining about $70 oil and 50 and 40. Then we were happy with 40. Just give us 40. Now it's 20. Now it's in the
I think WCS actually dipped down close to, I want to say it was somewhere around 248 or something like that today, and was back up to 3 something. But I mean, I usually look a little bit closer when markets are open on a Monday morning,
on a Monday morning
kind of thing or whatever. Yeah, exactly right. But yeah, it's definitely Western Canadian Select is taking a horrendous beating right now. It's very, very bad.
A lot of that's self-inflicted.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I mean, that's one of the big issues we've got to say. Right where to poke me, eh? It's one of the big issues we got as a country right now. And I mean, it's not in our oil and gas sector, but it's in a lot of our industrial parts of our economy. Is that we just kind of let things go for a lot less than what they're worth, just to say that we're doing something. I don't know what the reasoning is for it, but it's great to see that Kenny got KXL funded and approved and rock and roll, which now we're going to get see hung up in litigation in a lot of other places, which of course is going to continue to happen. But it's sad that that's our path of least resistance, is to go south into the States versus going east-west across our country. And the fact that we hit more resistance trying to go east-west to look after Canada first and maybe get to maybe a little bit more fair of a commodity price at coastal waters versus just dumping it all down to the States for nothing is it's a problem we have in Canada. And I really, really hope that somewhere between east and west, we can kind of get our stuff together and start working with each other and maybe unite a little bit better to get some of these resources that Canada has a massive amount of to tidal waters, to Asian markets and other places that are going to pay us a little bit more than we're getting for what's going south. I'm not saying I don't want to export anything to the U.S. by any stretch of the imagination. They're very important trading partners that we have, but man, it'd sure be nice to squeak that valve down a little bit and just say, hey, we're doing a little bit better on our coastal waters. Can you guys give us a little more for it? You know what I mean? And I mean, it's kind of a knife through the heart, I think, and as a lot of Canadians, I think, would probably agree that when we have a oil and gas sector that's getting the living piss beat out of it, and we're in 2019, I think we were somewhere around $19 billion worth of crude that we imported into Canada. That's really shitty.
Why? I'm a young guy, and so younger guy, not that young of a guy. I'm a younger guy. I, for the life of me, can't figure out why the rest, and I know Alberta, being in the middle of the storm, can see it plain as day. Saskatchewan's right beside us. They're in the middle of the storm. They can see it plain as day. And then, as you get further away from the heart of it, you can't see it. And what they can't see is, I honestly don't get why we import oil when we sit on one of the largest reserves in the entire world.
Yeah, it's frustrating. There's a lot of things that I've been through in the last little while here that have actually maybe helped me understand it a little bit better. But a lot of people hide behind the fact that they'll look at the quality of Western Canadian Select versus, I mean, what we're bringing in from Saudi even. And so, well, there's only a few places in the world that can refine what we're producing from our tar sands, things like that. Like, okay, like I hear you, but it's going somewhere, And so if that technology does exist and there's a few of these refineries in the world that can do it, well, then why are we not investing in that technology and industry here and shipping even a finished product south of the 49th parallel, out to our coast, crude out to our coast? I mean, there's like liquid natural gas. Why are we not liquefying what we have and getting it out and getting $1 for it? We seem to be champions of shooting ourselves in the feet, and I think there's a lot of people out there that would say, oh, okay, it's a corrupt government that's causing it. And I mean, I don't want to be one of these guys that jumps on the train of saying the world is corrupt and all this stuff, because there's enough guys out there right now that wear tinfoil hats that are going to jump all over this stuff and be like, oh, this guy's being paid by this guy. You know what? The scary part of it is that probably a lot of it's true, but I mean, that's speculation on my part. And I mean, where do you start finding the proper information to be able to connect all these dots together? I mean, a lot of people out there make sure that you can't find a lot of this information. It's just the fact that we're probably always going to have people running this country or influencing who's running this country that have financial interests in their mind versus the sovereignty and well-being of Canada in mind. And unfortunately, greed is a thing that's going to control humans, unfortunately, whether we like it or not.
Well, power too, right? The ability to move mountains, essentially, right? To just and have no repercussions for it. But like you say, we can get into tin hat theory here. We're treading water.
No, we can't, nor will we. I can't do it. I just hate going down that rabbit hole. So I'm like, no.
Well, going back to your work in the oil patch. So you say you start in 2000.
Yeah.
2019. 19 years.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, 19 years.
You say at one point you're addicted to it.
Like full on addicted to work. I still am.
You enjoyed it? When you mean addicted, you mean you enjoyed the work?
Yeah, it was just, it was, I went through a phase in my life there. Like I was specifically into the transportation side of well services. So, liquid CO2, liquid N2, frac sand, oversized equipment, setting up locations for frac crews and stuff like that. It was an incredible job. Had my own truck, actually wound up managing a company, a transportation company, up in Grand Prairie for quite a few years. And yeah, it was, the times when I was out in the field, I think is what I'd say I was addicted to, because you're really boots on the ground, and I am, always have been, always will be a hands-on kind of guy. I like being out in the field and being, at the boots on the ground level of what happens. That's where I'm happiest. You know what I mean? Because keeping busy is, I think something that people need to do a lot more of. And I mean, we're probably all experiencing that right now with what's happening, with isolation. But a busy mind is a good mind to have if you're busy with stuff and your hands are busy, because then you're not going to get yourself into shit, or you don't find yourself checking Twitter every 10 seconds or whatever to see what, Trump said or what Trudeau said or any of this stuff. The more of that stuff you have to focus on less, I can promise you, the happier of a human being you're going to be in your life.
Well, one of the upsides of social media is it connects us all. It allows you to get a message out very quick. Heck, it's how I found you, right? I got a buddy told me about your videos. I'm like, all right, I flicked one on, laughed my ass off, continued to watch them all, reach out. Let's see if we can make this happen, right? And that's the positive side of it. The opposite side of it is it can lead you down a dark rabbit hole, and there is a lot of negative people on there. And there's a lot of tin hat folk on there too.
Yeah, absolutely there is. Social media can be a good thing and a bad thing, but I think it's like a lot of things, You get the wrong newscaster on a broadcast or a reporter, swaying their story their kind of way that just goes on the TV that people see, and they just kind of start jumping on board and following them, kind of thing. Whether it's the right facts or not, it's something that happens. I don't know. I guess that would just be a thing where I just, try and caution a lot of people out there where you actually do get your information from, and like it can be you can actually, what I've noticed is you can find anything to support whatever theory you want to promote online if you look hard
confirmation
enough
bias.
for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Actually, I think it's been proven that Twitter and Facebook and stuff try giving you information that you've already liked, right? So it's just feeding you more of what you want to hear. So
absolutely.
You really, really, really need to do yourself a favor. And when you dislike our current government, you still got to try and listen to it and try and cut through some of the BS so you can understand it for yourself. So when you see all this stuff coming from your side, you could be like, yeah, but, right? Which nobody likes the but part. They just want to, they just want to rag on it. This is the worst word, right?
Yeah, and that's exactly. You see a lot of that happening nowadays too. I mean, McDick would be a prime example of it, right? You know, kind of beating on the government a little bit. So we try not to do like too much of that. I mean, it happens every now and then, and I mean, there's environmental protesters that kind of get caught in the crossfire, a little bit of stuff here and there.
There's some pretty ridiculous stuff that goes on in Canada, let alone the rest of the world, that you just get to clue in on and poke fun at. And
it's so true, man.
Right.
Yeah.
It's so if I was a protester, I'd probably watch it and go, man, that's some funny shit. Like that right there is some funny stuff.
Yeah. I'm gonna bro hat it with you here for a minute.
Oh, we're gonna bro hat.
Just got out of the shower, yeah. So that's kind of how I keep myself looked after here, right?
You're worried about your hair now.
It's being a serious issue. Yeah, I'm very concerned about it.
You heard it here first, folks. McDick is worried about his hair.
It's a serious issue. I'm sure that everybody's seen that on most of my videos, but I take lots of time to run through the makeup room and get trimmed up and everything there, right?
Well, let's go back. We keep bouncing from it. You work in the oil patch, 19 years. You like it.
Yeah.
What brings you? What forces you? You know, you say you see the new government come in. You're seeing the trend. Is that what pushes it over the end, or what?
There's a few things happening, Shaun, actually, but like essentially everything been going good, and I got caught in a spot where, you know, there was an industry that was ballooning really fast, and I was in a small startup company, and it got caught in that same balloon, and before you know it, you're bigger than you were ever ready to be, kind of thing. I wasn't a part owner of the company. I was just helping run it. You know, we started off with 3 guys, 2 trucks, 1 trailer, and 3 guys. And then, when I left, we were at 36 trucks, 50 some odd trailers, and 60 employees. By some people's standards, that's not a lot. But I mean, when you're just kind of looking at a couple of guys that haven't really gone anywhere out of high school, but behind the wheel of a truck that you're trying to make it go with this stuff, and then you see a lot of different regulations coming in. With new licensing standards for Class 1 drivers, and a lot of new safety programs coming through, a 3-year mandatory audit on carrier profiles, on your NSC profile and everything. There was a lot of things changing, and it wasn't a matter of keeping up with it. It's just, it was slowly turning into somebody that I wasn't, if that makes sense. I've always just been just get in the mud and work kind of guy. And before you know it, you're spending 18 hours a day at a place buried in paperwork and permitting and doing a lot of different things. We actually, we went through the PIC certification program and a bunch of different things. And, still, it never stopped the fact that I was learning all the time, which is, I think, a fantastic thing about life. And, we all have the opportunity to learn as much as we want to. The opportunities are out there. And I think that's why being a Canadian is a really fantastic privilege that we have, is because the sky is really the limit here of what you want to learn. The opportunities are there. You just have to have the drive to go do it. So I start getting really upset when I start talking about people on unemployment and a bunch of stuff. It's not that you can't find a job. It's that you don't have the drive to go do it, or your standards are set maybe a little bit too high that you won't go do it. And, it's maybe a little bit of a problem that we have in Canada specifically, that I think we're probably going to see a lot of happening now. But here I am getting off track again.
No. It's an interesting look at it. What you're talking about.
Yeah, it's we're probably going to see a lot of that. And you see, even like right now, there's a lot of temporary foreign worker battles going on in a few different things, where all of a sudden a lot of people have lost their, our maybe higher paying jobs or higher profile jobs kind of thing. And the alternative now will be unemployment or going down to a labor kind of job. And there's a lot of people out there right now that will be like, well, I'm not going to do that
I'm just
job.
gonna take money from the
Yeah.
government.
Yeah.
You've probably heard of different places trying subsidized government living, subsidized government funding. I think where they give you essentially an allowance. Have you heard of this? And
like here and there, yeah.
well, they've tried it in different. I know for sure it's happened down in California. I want to say one other place in the States where they're flirting with the idea of where everybody gets an allowance, and that's kind of what you're saying is you probably could go back and find work, or you could just take some free money from the government and sit at home. And I'm above the. I always when this COVID thing hit, I said probably the most scary thing about it is when times got tough back in 2008, 2015. If you lost your job, there was work. You could go anywhere and do anything. You could move a province over. You could go to a different country. You could do pretty much. You just had to go after it, right? Or you just had to pick up, nothing against Walmart greeters, but you probably could have went to Walmart and been a Walmart greeter if you really wanted to do something.
Absolutely, yeah.
The thing that's almost unnerving about what's gone on so far with this whole thing has been, you lose your job right now. I don't know how many people are hiring because nothing's open. And if you go to the States, nothing's open there. And if you go overseas, nothing's open there. And it's the first time in history that I can think of that has ever happened.
Yeah, it's a very serious storm that we're pitted into weather here right now. It's a very concerning thing. And that's where you see situations like this happening right now, and even I don't know. I kind of look outside the box a little bit, and even just look at from a perspective of what do we need right now as Canadians, because you see a federal government right now that's, obviously doing what a responsible government should be doing, is try to get money out to their population so that the country doesn't completely implode and people can maybe make some rent payments and a few different things, which is, obviously the right thing to do. But this is a really good time, and I think there was a really good example of a lot of this stuff. Now, I don't have any of the statistics on it. Don't quote me on a lot of this stuff. But back in the Depression of the 30s, there was a lot of government programs that were actually government work programs. And the only reason I know about some of this is because I grew up on a federal community pasture and asked a lot of questions about how did these fences get built in all these places. Well, during the 30s, the government said, okay, hey, we're going to put X number of guys to work building these fences out here on these community pastures. Now, obviously right now, you're not going to get a lot of people to go out to work with a post hole digger and a maul and build fences and stuff, right? But the theory is there, and we've got the challenge, of course, of having this virus that we need to contend with at the same time as well, right? But it's something that can be managed if we're managing it closely, I think. And right now, you get into larger urban centers where everything's completely shut down. I kind of get what's happening to try and control this, but if you get larger rural work going on, where let's say if we were doing something along the lines of building a pipeline or something like that, that's not something that's unachievable with social.
I see what you did there.
You see what I did there, yeah. But whether it's building a fence in a community pasture or building a pipeline to tidal waters or something like that, nobody's saying that we have to do it at the speed that we do it when we're under construction deadlines and a lot of this stuff. But really, if we have a government that's going to invest money in their population, wouldn't you want to invest something into
something you can get return from?
A return on investment kind of scenario, instead of just, here's $10 billion. I'm just going to light it on fire and hope that things come around.
The best analogy I'd heard about the bailout was, they were talking about whether there's been. I'm speaking specifically about the States right now, and they were talking about the $2 trillion bailout plan, and Republicans wanted to give it to all the businesses, and Democrats wanted to give it to the people, right? And who's going to get it, right? And they were talking, just like giving people money is like giving a starving man a donut. Sure tastes good, and he's going to be happy for 30 seconds, but the nutritional value of that is awful. And within 30 seconds, it's gone. And then what are you left with? I need more money because I spent what you gave me.
Then you kind of want another fucking donut, don't you?
That's right.
That was pretty delicious.
That's right.
You know?
And so I hear what you're saying. I think that, another quote that I heard the other day was, I was listening to an interview, and the guy said, tough times create great leaders. Soft times gives us what we currently have. And he was talking about weak leaders, because currently that we've been, my lifetime, your lifetime, we've been pretty fortunate in what we've been, I don't know if you could grow up in a better time, right? And the problem is, I come back to this all the time with politics, and we're going to get back to you and oil. But in politics, the dirty little rubber hole, isn't it? It's just down you go.
Careful, I won't follow you too far down it here.
But I've wondered for a really long time, and by a really long time, I mean the current administration, is like everybody can see that something this doesn't make any sense, right? And I know, like, kumbaya, we're gonna have everybody in, and it's gonna be awesome. But at the end of the day, you gotta do some things that make sense as a business. You gotta run the country as a business. You gotta do things that keep us, everybody healthy and good, and keep moving and positive and everything else. So I watch this and I go, you just can't look over at the conservatives or any party and go, that guy though, when he runs the next, we're gonna have the guy, because that guy ain't sitting there. And I can't figure that out, why we don't have more people in politics, other than, I think we talked about it, before, was like right now in politics, you gotta have thick skin, you gotta be willing to go through a ton of crap. And then if you get all the way to the top and have done all that and want to do some of these things, you're going to get ridiculed on another level for it. And so all the best don't go into it, because there's easier to make money, right? So then you're getting me on a rant now. And then, so now all the best are sitting in places where they can make easy money, but have really no control over what happens on a country scale. And now what's happening is happening. And everybody's going, man, we're in some deep crap. And I don't know when we get out of this. And I sit here and go, we get out of this when the best go into politics and turn the ship around.
Yeah, it's true. And I think the hard part about it is politics, or running a country, or running the world for that matter. It being turned around is going to take somebody in power. That there's a lot of people even right now that are asking for that kind of thing, that maybe don't even know what they're asking for and what it's going to take to get things turned around. And that kind of goes back to that entitlement thing that I was talking about earlier, is that, okay, if you really want to do this, this is what it's going to take. You know what I mean? And although we can all kind of run around and parade and beat on our chests and be like, yeah, let's just do what it takes, to be like, are you willing to do what it takes? Yeah. There's going to be some stuff that's going to go down that you're going to be like, hey, I kind of don't like what's going down right now. And then the person running the place is going to be like, no, you asked for this, so here it comes. You know what I mean? So yeah, and it's just, I think right now is that we have a little, maybe like we were mentioning, a little bit softer of a generation that is maybe out of touch with the reality of what it's going to take to get us out of what we have going on. And I think one of those softer people that I'm referring to might be the leader of the country right now. But yeah, I mean, it just,
you might be right.
Yeah, it's, we can't be crying every 10 seconds when we turn around as a nation leader. There's things that you need to be able to do, and we don't have it. And I'm not saying I've got it. I'm not saying there's anybody out there that does have it, but what we've got is not doing it. But what have we had in the past that is doing it either? You know what I mean? There's been some great premiers come through the country of Canada, as far as I'm concerned. But if you really want to look back and see, okay, who's been a great prime minister of Canada? Well, I mean, I'd sit here and say I'm going to need some time on that one. You know what I mean? So, no offense to any of our previous prime ministers, but I think we're past the point of offense at this stage of the game here. You know what I mean?
Well, you just caught me on a long, 5-minute rant about politics, so I think you're right. Well, once again, we go back to it, though.
Yeah.
I'm going to pull us all the way back to it. We'll see if we can stick on it here
All right, man. Yeah, let's go. Yeah.
Is you enjoy your career, you enjoy everything about it. You're in a company. Now you're starting to become a person that you don't like. So what is the moment? What is the moment where the time where you just roll over, you wake up, you're out in the wherever you're at. You go, man, I don't want to do this anymore, or
Mm-hmm.
this isn't me anymore.
Yeah, it was gradual. I gradually got it figured out, and you know, I just found myself getting to an older point in my life where I was just like, you know, this is a great career. I mean, I'd say I'm successful in my career and everything, and yeah, you just get to a point where eventually things kind of start bugging you a little bit. You know what I mean? You feel like you kind of start spinning your tires with a lot of the stuff you're doing. And I just got myself into a situation where I couldn't take anything farther than where it had gone. And you know, you're constantly fighting against an industry and starting to fight against this demographic of people we were just referring to, kind of thing, to try and keep some wheels turning and stuff. And it kind of got to the point where it was a very slow, gradual change into you know, this is getting to take up actually all pieces of my life, through the night, through the day. It was just constant. You couldn't get away from it, kind of thing. And there was actually one point where it hit me where I just remember the TSN turning point very well. You know, it had been a bad night. There'd been, you know, you get a truck in the ditch, you got some stuff going on or whatever, and you go out, get it out of the ditch, get everything done, get back into town, hit the pillow for a couple hours, and your alarm's going off at 6 o'clock in the morning again. You're getting up and you got to head back into keep making things work. And that was kind of that point where I was just like, that was the first time in my life. And I don't know if anybody knows me out there, but I am a pretty happy guy. Like, I am one of the happiest guys on planet Earth. And I spring out of bed. I love every day. I love getting out of bed. I love going to do my thing. It's just I really don't take any days on this earth for granted. And I got out of bed that morning and I was just like, I hate this. And I stopped when I said that to myself, and I was like, okay, you need to have a very serious look at what you have going on here, because this is not you anymore. You know, like, it's not who you used to be. It's not who you want to be, kind of thing. You're just slowly getting miserable doing what I was doing. And I was like, there's times in your life, I think, where people will be in a situation like that and just kind of float with it because it works, and they don't want to shake things up any, and they'll trade being comfortable in position for maybe not being the happiest with it. You know what I mean? And I just decided it was time to change what I had going on in my life. So it's not like a mic drop. I gave 6 months notice that I was my intent on leaving the company. You know, helped train a couple of guys, finished their PIC certification, got everything done. I couldn't leave it not being finished, and I would call my career there a success. And it was a great part of my life that helped build me to who I am. And I hope I left with as much dignity as I could. It was just time for a change in life. So I took that leap and did it.
Well, first off, you're a very small percentage, because it's I don't know what the percentage is, but it's very high percentage of people that are working in their jobs don't like it, right? But they get, you know, I listen to some different podcasts. Joe Rogan sticks out, and he's talked about it lots, right? About people get stuck in work they don't like, but now they got a mortgage. Now they got wife and kids, maybe. They just, you know, and they're stuck and they can't get out. And so then what happens? Or they don't like change. So, you know, and it's a little bit of a leap of faith to push on and to, you know, hop out and try something new. I have to imagine that first day after you were done and you got to just, I'm out of here, must have been like a weight off the shoulders, feeling good, big old smile on your face.
Yeah, it really, really was. And considering the fact that it's not something that is like, I've been mic dropped on a lot in that specific industry, you know, where you actually have a guy lined up to come in to haul 2 or 3 loads on that shift that they're coming in for. And I've actually had it happen with 2 guys in the same day where they just stop answering their phone and just don't show up anymore. And like it's devastating when you're running an operation of that size, because it really affects your field performance and everything. And then you got upset customers, and then you're left wondering, well, what the hell happened? Like, why did he just not show up anymore, kind of thing, right? And I just, you know what, I'll never, ever, ever do that to somebody, because you don't do to somebody what you wouldn't want done to yourself, which I try and stick as close to that as I can, through my life. Not all the time, but most of the time. And so I mean, it was just the fact that it worked up to it for that 6 months. It was that day was it was a very changing day in my life. And I didn't even know what I was going to do, actually, is the craziest thing. And I just I've always had land back here in Tufnell, and this is kind of where home's been, and just it took a few months of me being back here that I realized that this was just it, that this is just where I want to be.
Now, in the meantime, though, from going from working up north to being back home, you take a bike trip. We got to talk about that.
Yeah. It's an epic journey. I call it the bike trip of life. It's what I call it, because that was one of the things I always wanted to do uninterrupted so much through those years, was just be able to not have a phone on and not check my phone when I stopped to fill up for fuel on a motorcycle, and just kind of just be free, just go do your thing. And that's actually where this Quick Dick McDick Snapchat handle came from, is because I'd changed my phone number, and I had no intentions whatsoever of contacting anybody, including my family, while I was gone on this motorcycle trip. I'm just like, I'm going to be gone, and, I'll catch you guys whenever I feel like it. And my older brother, he's like, hey, dude, you kind of can't just bugger off and not talk to anybody. He's like, people need to know you're alive, all right? He's like, just get Snapchat, man, and just like, once every couple of days, just put something on your story so that we know you're kind of kicking around. I'll be like, all right, fair enough. But that's where this Quick Dick McDick name came from. But I hit 10 provinces, 2 territories, 21 states. On a 2009 night train, no windshield, no nothing. We just went and tore up the country. I was lucky enough to get paid to travel most of Canada as a commercial driver, in a lot of different places, including up in the Arctic, which is a absolutely amazingly beautiful part of Canada. If anybody ever gets a chance to get up into the Arctic, go do it. It's incredible. Summer or winter. Pack long johns if it's winter, because it's colder than the bastard up there, but it doesn't change the fact that it's gloriously beautiful. So yeah, I hit all the places that I hadn't in the big truck, but I got a picture of my motorcycle and myself at each provincial crossing in Canada, plus 2 territories. You can't get a provincial crossing in Nunavut because there's no summer road going through there, and I don't quite want to put a ski in a track on the Harley yet. I don't think I'm that tough, so I had to take a furlough on that one, and hopefully we'll get that one someday. So yeah, it was amazing. It was an incredible trip, 25,500 kilometers. I met a lot of amazing people. I think my goal when I went to do it was, when you have those, this is totally a Saskatchewan thing too, which we're going to talk about this for a second. If I'm allowed to take over for a second here, we're going to talk about this for a second.
Quick Dick, take the helm.
When you're sitting and you're talking to somebody, and it's kind of like, I call it the Saskatchewan sign-off kind of thing or whatever. We're like, yeah, well, if you're ever in my neck of the woods, just pop in, kind of thing. But when you say that, it is such an empty statement, because you're just like, that's just kind of how you say goodbye. Because I know that I'm never going to be in Tatamagouche, Nova Scotia, to stop by and have a coffee with you. Well, you know what? I was like, I kind of planned this route to ballpark where I was going to be. And I was just like, I am stopping to see absolutely everybody that I've always said, well, if I'm swinging through, I'll stop by. I did it, and it was incredible. The response and reaction that you get out of people when you've gone that far out of your way to stop in their home is if that doesn't make you feel Canadian, I don't know what does. It was really, truly, truly amazing. Every place that I stopped was incredible.
Well, I talked about north of Montreal, a hotel or a motel. I talked about Maple Creek Motel, but what we did when we knew people was we stayed places. We stayed places we'd never met people before, but friends of friends had friends there, and you'd stay. And I know exactly what you're talking about. It's the most Canadian thing you're ever going to see because they just welcome you in. And I don't know how many times we rolled in on pedal bikes, not a motorbike, and have like just issues. And I know a buddy at a bike shop, and they'd take us down one place in that must have been Ontario. Took us down to a bike shop after hours, and I was like, "How the hell did we land here?" And so we're in a bike shop, and the guy's just tuning it up. It was great. Fed us meals and have fun and enjoy the time, and like it's so cool. Like when you decided you were going to go on the bike trip, did you have any idea that's how like you were going to go that far, or did it just kind of become an addiction to you to keep going, or did you have an idea of where you wanted to go?
I had I just knew I wanted to get to Newfoundland, and it was actually a cool little thing that happened to me regarding Newfoundland and some things. I wanted to stay through Canada all the way through because I'd been up through the northern route through Ontario, through Nipigon, and I actually wanted to go along the North Shore of Superior. But I'd never been past Nova Scotia. I'd spent actually quite a bit of time in Nova Scotia. I know a lot of people out there. It's an amazing place. Just a side note that last night and today was a horrible day for Nova Scotia. And if anybody out there is listening or watching from the Portapique region there, man, I just thinking a lot about all the people that I know out there. I've been in touch with people that I do know, which we're nowhere near the area. But
and if people don't,
what a horrendous tragedy.
Yeah, and if people haven't heard, that's that gunman who went around disguised as a RCMP officer.
Yeah, as an RCMP. Yeah, 13 dead, including Heidi Stevenson, RCMP officer.
Yeah,
23 years of service. 2 kids, a husband, not to mention anybody else that was gunned down as well. It's a terrible thing, and that's nowhere on the planet deserves that. And it's nothing that you would ever expect to come out of a place like Nova Scotia if you've ever been there. So yeah, just man,
yeah, 100%.
Everybody out there is terrible thing. So going back to I'd never been east of Nova Scotia. I was like, you know what? I've got to do it. I got to get east of Nova Scotia. I have a very, very, very good, I call them my family. Actually, when I first moved to Grand Prairie, I lived in their basement. Hey, Nova Scotia proud. Here's a Nova Scotianer story or whatever, right? I'm a Saskatchewan prairie boy that actually wound up moving up to Grand Prairie. And there was a family from Nova Scotia. The guy's name was Doug McLeod. We call him coal miner because he was one of the first draggers down in the Westray mine disaster in Pictou County in Nova Scotia. We called him coal miner. He was a crazy Nova Scotianer, just full of energy and always one of the funnest guys to be around. But I was looking for a place to rent, and he said, "Well, you can rent my basement from me." He's renting out the basement, trying to make some money to make ends meet, whatever. I was like, "Sounds great." And you were just instantly a part of the family. He had 2 daughters and a son and a wife, and she would leave suppers out for me on the counter, and they would do laundry, and you were just instantly a part of the family there, and that resonates throughout Nova Scotia, right? But anyways, this family, long story short, they wound up moving back to Nova Scotia, and the coal miner's not with us anymore, but his family's still there. And so I always keep in touch with them. That was one of my destinations that I was like, I'm going to be there, excuse me, because the boy of the family was turning 30 this summer. And I planned going east of Nova Scotia after that. And what I found was incredible. Newfoundland is an amazing place. I spent an extra day there. I fell in love with St. John's. It's just an amazing harbor city.
You ended up at George Street, didn't you?
Several times. And it was good. Yeah, it was really good. And just the history that's there and everything was incredible. And then caught the Argenta ferry back and did the Cabot Trail, Cape Breton Island. A
On a
guy that I used
side
to work with.
on a side note, when you went
Yeah.
to Newfoundland, did you
Yeah.
go to the I can't remember the place. It would but where the U.S. owned it during World War II. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Oh yeah, absolutely. So that's actually is the harbor. So there's
So you got to see
you're talking about Cape Spear, which is actually there's a military installation there.
Yes.
Actually, where they had a gunnery base and stuff. But then
how is it that nobody, like, unless you've been there or probably live there or live out towards that, us Westerners have no idea that is there. I swear nobody has a clue.
Insane. And I think it was like at the time, but it was I can't remember that it was 49 when Newfoundland came a part of Confederation. I want to say it was 49 because it was post World War II. But the actual harbor in Newfoundland is for years and years and years and years, right in St. John's, there has been one of the most coveted harbors in the world because it's so protected and it's so deep. And they were shown where they had all the stringers across to keep U-boats out during World War II and stuff. And then you actually look at Cabot Tower.
Yeah, man, Cabot Tower. Yeah,
it's insane.
I 100%. That place was eye-opening. And to finish your point, they joined in March 31st, 1949. There you go.
49. Okay, awesome. Thanks for
people listening to this are like, I learned something tonight. That's exactly what they're thinking.
Yeah, you know what? Until I had been out there, I did not know that about Newfoundland. But that's, it's just you can just, like I said, you can just keep learning in this world that we've got. It's a really, really neat place. So Newfoundland was incredible. And all the places you go, you can't spend enough time there because they're just so much. But the cool thing about that I was talking about earlier is that I just stumbled across the Mile Zero monument of Terry Fox in Newfoundland, in St. John's, where he actually, dipped his artificial leg into the harbor and started his marathon of hope. Rewind back to when I was going through Thunder Bay, Ontario, where they've actually got his monument there,
which is everybody should see that too.
If you haven't been there, put it on your list. I was actually training to run a marathon later in the summer, and when I stayed in Thunder Bay, I actually ran out to the Terry Fox monument there, and it's something.
Yeah.
Go do it. And then the coolest part about it was that I essentially rode the trail that he ran, and I can't imagine doing that with one leg under the pain of what he was going through.
I can't imagine doing that with two legs. We biked a whole chunk of that, and I'm like, we got to places where I'm like, how on earth did he do this?
It's incredible, man, and I think that's one of the things we really need to recognize as Canadians is how much culture we have in this country that there is to see. And I'm just as guilty as anybody else of maybe wanting to go to Mexico or go do this or go do that, but man, there are so many cool places to see. And I feel like it just kind of tore the top of the can off when I went and did this trip, because now I've got this huge list of other plaades that I want to go see in Canada, kind of thing. It's an amazing place.
Where do you want to go see next in Canada?
I would really like to go spend more time in Manitoba, specifically up into northern Manitoba.
Northern Manitoba is just the five people are letting off confetti right now. They're going, holy crap, didn't see that one coming.
It's Manitoba is so beautiful, and actually we wound up. That was quite a few years ago. I wound up going through the Whiteshell area and stuff. I've got cousins that live in Winnipeg. I stayed with them on my way through this year, and they took me out to a place called Lockport. It's just north of Winnipeg, and it's a place called the Miracle Mile, and it's on the Red River. I believe it's the Red River, and they call it the Lock. It's actually a hydro dam there, and it's 1 mile of the best catfishing in the world.
No kidding.
I did not know this about Manitoba. So they're a little bit muddier of a catfish because the water's always churning and they stay in there. But we went out there, and we were pulling like 30 to 35 pound cats out of this place in this tiny little boat. It was incredible. And then my cousins showed me some of the hunting trips and stuff they've been on up in northern Manitoba and a lot of these places, and it's just it's got me captivated. I want to go see more of it. Another really cool place that I wanted to spend more time in was right around the Lake of the Woods, or around the Kenora area, getting into that Canadian Shield area. It's beautiful there.
I got to live in. So I played my junior hockey in Dryden, which is an hour.
Awesome in Dryden, yeah, you bet.
East of Kenora.
That's killer, man.
And that country is beautiful. And shout out to my billet family who I lived with, who Robin Lane is a guy from Newfoundland. He is
awesome.
Newfie dinners. It was quite
you gotta get some bologna in you, right?
So you do this. I look at it like most people will never get the opportunity to even glimpse half of what you did. You got this trip of like almost like a
Very
lifetime,
lucky, man.
Right?
Yeah.
To go and
absolutely.
To have the gumption, quit a job, recognize that I'm just not me anymore. Quit your job, and then hop on the road and do this giant tour of, what did you say, 10 provinces, 2 territories, and 21 states.
Territories and 21 states, man.
I did hear that correct.
25,500 kilometers, yeah.
Like that's. I'm friends with some biking guys. That's a dream of theirs. Like to just open road.
I was very, very lucky, to be able to do it, and I do not take that for granted that I had the opportunity to go do it. And it's stuff like that you don't forget. It was really good, and met a lot of great people and saw a lot of really cool places. And it's funny because the first video I ever wound up putting on YouTube was actually a ride up to the 60th parallel out of Grand Prairie. Because in everything that I'd planned, I wound up circling back up to Grand Prairie, and then I was going to go on the second leg of my trip after that. And I was like, man, there's just no way in this puzzle that I can organize getting the Northwest Territories into this. And I was sitting at a table in Grovedale, south of Grand Prairie, another beauty redneck Alberta town. I'm sitting at my buddy's table, and we're drinking whiskey, and I was telling him about my struggles of how I can't get to the Northwest Territories. And he's like, well, why can't you? And I was like, well, it just doesn't fit. He's like, yeah, but it's only like 650K from here, man. And I was like, well, yeah, why can't I? He's like, just ride it. I was like, I'm just going to ride it. So it was about 3 a.m. We shut her down there, and I got up at 6 the next morning, and I thought this would be hilarious if I made a video of my day and like send it to my brothers, but it's over. And so that's kind of what I did. And I rode, that was a 1,300 kilometer round trip. It was 650. Yeah, it was 1,300 kilometers, 1,307 kilometers, rode it in 14 hours. Thunderbutted it. Yeah. And there's a little stretch. Okay. So I always get a lot of gear in that. Everyone grinds my gears in that one because they figured that the Fourth Meridian out of Lloyd. Like,
yeah.
Oh, yeah, they're like, oh, that's a paid sponsorship or product placement out of Fourth Meridian. It's not. I knew there was a stretch between high level and the border and back to high level where there's no fuel available, right? And on a good day, I can get 300 kilometers out of a tank of fuel on this Harley of mine. And this is a 400 and some kilometer round trip. I'm like, well, shit. What's going to fit in my saddlebag that I can carry fuel in? And when I'm still kind of a little stumbly, foggy or whatever in my garage that morning, I throw a can of sardines in my saddlebag, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, my brother'd been up and he brought some Fourth Meridian growlers with him, like, I don't know how long ago, and they're in the recycle pile in my garage. And I was like, those growlers will hold gasoline. Get them. Yep. They fit in the saddlebags. Let's roll. So I filled those things up full when I left high level. And
you don't have to lie to us. We know. Hey, wink, wink. Yeah, we know. Hey.
They made it. And it's actually hilarious because a lot of the stuff people think Great Western Beer sponsors me.
Well, they should.
They don't.
They should.
I agree. If anyone from Great Western's watching out there,
if they're listening, like, figure it out already.
Yeah. But that's just what we drink. Big Mustache Al has drank Great Western beer since like 1986.
You know, somehow that
used to come in the stubby bottles. You know what I mean?
Somehow that doesn't surprise me, right? Like, it just doesn't surprise me. Great Western's the beer of choice,
right? And Saskatchewan barley, man. Saskatchewan made Saskatchewan barley. I just whatever winds up in my videos is just like what I have kicking around.
Well, let's
what
talk.
I use.
Let's talk about your videos a little. You know, we've gone now,
Sure,
I don't know, an hour or whatever it is.
Holy shit.
Well, time flies when you're having fun.
I guess, right?
Well, you come off of this once in a lifetime bike tour, and then you got this quick dick Snapchat.
Yeah.
How the hell does that all of a sudden spawn into YouTube and over? Like, I should check the numbers on Protesters Diet, but it was like 500,000 views or whatever the hell it's at, and it's like
it's fucked, man.
It's hilarious. It's hilarious. And if I'm going to play the clip, people have already heard part of the clip because I'm going to play part of the clip before this episode starts because it is absolute pure comedy gold. But I mean, how does Snapchat that, like, how does it even go? Like, just talk a little bit about the...
It's really crazy how it started, actually. So Big Mustache Al is, if nobody out there knows it or knows who Big Mustache Al is or has watched this stuff.
I take it for granted that people listening to this know who Big Mustache Al is.
I'm assuming they do, yeah. So he's my dad, right? Like this is the man that spawned the seed of Quick Dick McDick, right? But he's just, my parents are amazing people, and my dad is a very incredible individual, and I mean he's cowboyed all his life, but that doesn't exempt him from being a Saskatchewan guy. You know what I mean? And I just got home, and so they heat their house with wood still. They've got backup electric heat, but he heats his house with a wood stove, which very few people do.
And he probably
nowadays.
tells you there's nothing like a wood fire or wood heat, which is very true. If you've ever lived with wood heat, it is fantastic. Carry on.
Yeah, it's true. So part of the spring project, they're actually just a couple of days ago here, we were out splitting firewood and stuff because we got a big block actually on my half section of land there, whatever, where we do a lot of the cutting. So he likes to stay a few years ahead kind of thing. So this is just what you do. And he'd gone out and he blocked a bunch of stuff and things had dried up, and we could get back out to the cutting block. It's like, hey, you're here. I could use an extra hand. We should go split some wood. And whenever he says that, I am all in, because it's the most pure thing you can go and do. There's no distractions. There's nobody around. It's just you, the old man, a couple of cans of Great Western beer, and you just grind each other's gears for 10 hours. It's so much fun. You just see how much shit you can give the other guy, and then you kind of laugh about it. You know what I mean? It's fun. So we jump in the truck, and I look over at this guy, my dad, and he's got this flat brim bumper to bumper foam hat on, and he's serious about it. You know what I mean? I'm like, shit. So we both got a frosty can of pop in our hands, and this seat in this Saskatchewan farm truck we're taking out there. The name of the truck's Woody, because that's his wood splitting truck. It's got the custom wood splitter on the back of it and everything. Because you got to name your trucks. If you don't name your trucks, I don't know what you're doing with your life. And we're cruising out to this cutting block here or whatever, and like the seat is kind of tipped a little bit forward. And it's tipped that far forward because all the empty cans behind it that he hasn't cleaned out for I don't know how long. The passenger side mirrors smashed out of this thing or whatever, and I've got my feet sitting up on about 3 months worth of tools that he's collected on the passenger floor side of this thing that he doesn't use. And I'm just looking around at this whole situation, and for the first time in my life and all the time I can remember, I had nothing else on my mind but this is fucking hilarious. Like, this might be the funniest thing I'm experiencing right now, and this is everyday life here, right? And the gears just kind of got churning, and I was like, I'd put this dumb Quick Dick McDick name on my Snapchat, and I was like, my brothers would get a kick out of this. And shout out to my brothers. Like, everyone's like, you're a funny guy when they talk to me. I was like, you haven't met my brothers. Like, I mean, I'm the dullest of the three. These guys are comedic geniuses.
So what you're saying is the next podcast, I need to get Quick Dick with his two brothers on.
It's just get me out of the equation. It'll be way more enthralling if you got those guys in it. But I was like, you know what? These guys are going to love this. Like, they're going to think this is some funny shit. And I was like, I don't know why it hit me, but I was like, how funny would this be if this was an infomercial for some kind of a log splitting business or something like that? Like, I don't know, big mustache Al. Yeah, big mustache Al Ventures, though. Big mustache Al Ventures, because it's got to be a business north of Tufnell, Saskatchewan, that specializes in hardwood, splitting firewood and a bunch of shit. And I just kind of started rolling with that and started doing a few things. And the funny part about this is the old man's getting pissed off at me because I got my phone out all the time when he's splitting wood, and he starts off, he's like, what the hell are you doing over there? You know what I mean? Like, gruff, eh? I'd be like, that's doing some stuff or whatever. So we stopped for a beer, and he's like, no, like, what were you doing? So I show him what I'm doing, and he's pissing himself laughing. And he's like, that's funny. He's like, I should get in on one of those. I was like, yes, you should. That's where we did the check you for ticks kind of thing or whatever they did. And we had a blast with it. And then it just kind of, like, that was it. And I never picked it back up again the whole bike trip I was on until I got back. I went and spent 2 weeks on my cousin's farm down close to Robsart, Saskatchewan. Quick Dick McDick kind of came back because all of a sudden I had a bunch of time on my hands, you know, bailing or sitting in a tractor and doing a bunch of stuff. And yeah, like, lots of people kind of, like, that's how social media works. So, like, you know, my brothers would be like, you got to add this guy, and this guy because it's funny stuff. And then they want you to add 4 people. And then before you know it, you got this big explosion of adding people going on. But some of Quick Dick's best stuff came from down at the Boundary Ranch. And I didn't have my settings set right in Snapchat. I was just letting everything delete.
Rookie move.
I know, right? Oh, it was glorious. And then a lot of the stuff that I had when I came back here to Tufnell, when I got cracking around here, I lost a lot of really, really, really gold stuff that I'll bring back because I kind of remember how I did it and some of the jokes in it or whatever. Just you got to get back to that kind of time of year for it to be relevant. But yeah, that's how it started. And then I kept doing them. I was doing them every day. I do like a 1-minute thing every day for months. And before you know it, you got Tufnell, the town of Foam Lake, a whole bunch of other areas are all got you on Pastures just waiting for you to upload stuff. And I'm like, how is this happening, right? And people kept bugging me for older stuff that I'd put up that had gone missing. You deletes after 24 hours off your story or whatever. And there's some of that stuff you want gone after 24 hours because there was some raunchy shit on there. And yeah, so it got to the point where I was just like, you know what? I'm just going to start putting this on YouTube. You guys can watch as much as you want. Like, stop texting me being like, send me this one. I was just like, I've had enough. I was like, I'll put it on YouTube. You can watch it there. And then this YouTube channel, like, catches traction or something. And I don't know how it all happened, but all of a sudden there's just all these followers, man.
Well, my father wanted to give you a shout out because he's a huge fan. He's turns 64 in August, so he is a giant fan of yours. Yeah,
that's an honor. Thank you very much. Appreciate that.
And what you do is, it's simple, and I don't mean that as a knock. That means it's universal, like especially across Saskatchewan and Alberta, right? And probably
you are not
Manitoba.
offending me by saying that.
But I mean, the idea is just like, instead of like creating this complex thing, it just makes it so simple. And then you just add in the humor part, and all of a sudden, you know, my father on a farm in Hillmont, Saskatchewan, nice little tiny farming community northeast of Lloydminster, is follows your videos on YouTube. How crazy is that? Like, to actually even say that out loud is like, what? But that's what happens.
It's so flattering, man. It really is. Yeah.
Well, I mean, when you talk about the Saskatchewan farm truck, all of us farm kids know exactly what you're talking about, right? We had the farm truck back in the day, Old Blue.
Great name. It's got to be named Old Blue. Love it.
Didn't need a key to start it. It could just start. I can't remember how the hell that was possible.
Did you have the screwdriver in it, or was it just you could just turn it?
I think, if memory serves me correct, the key had been broken off at one point, so the key was always in it, and then you just
still in it. Beautiful.
You just twist and away you
three
go.
combinations. There's the key in it. There's the screwdriver to start it, and there's the pair of vice grips that are on it that you.
Oh
turn
yeah,
it.
the vice
three
grips.
ignition combinations.
Yeah. And so that was the truck that all of us kids grew up driving, right? I don't know how young I was. I mean, labor laws probably don't want us talking about it. I don't know. I was probably like 7 years old out in the field just whipping around an old blue. And I mean, it had more dents. It was no longer blue. It was just an old farm truck. And you talk about the seat knot. Everybody, that's just universal. The 9-wire being universal, like
that was, you know what? The number 9 wire was one of my favorite videos. I think my second favorite video to make, but it was so easy to make because a lot of the stuff you just go out, everyone's like, where do you get your material? Where do you get all this stuff from? I was like, I go out and I just go through my day and I'm just like, that is damn funny. And that's it. That's where it comes from. It's just everyday life. And I think that's why so many people just can relate to it, is just because it's just everyday life. And I'm maybe a little bit luckier of a guy to be in the position that I'm in. I've just had the opportunity in my life to experience so many things. I understand agricultural life very well because it's how I grew up. And I understand oil and gas sides of things very well because I've spent so much time in it. Being connected to the oil and gas industry in a town like Grand Prairie, it makes you very aware of the forestry industry as well, because they kind of work with each other up there, sharing roads, clearing pipeline right of ways and a lot of different stuff. I've just been exposed to a lot of different things, and I'm by no stretch of the imagination an expert on anything whatsoever, which if you talk to experts in the field of some of the stuff that I cover, they'll be like, wow, he just doesn't know what he's talking about. Well, I know, I'm just kind of scratching the surface of a lot of this stuff, but if you can take that, like that small understanding of how a lot of this stuff works. Another part is fisheries. I was so lucky to have the opportunity to get out on, some lobster boats and some stuff out in Nova Scotia. And I'm not a professor on any of it or how it works, but you kind of have an idea of how most of the parts of your country work. It just feels like it's easier to be able to connect the dots a little bit better. Does that make sense? What I'm
absolutely
saying?
Yeah. Well, I think if you stay in your bubble, so never, I'm not saying you never leave your area, but I mean, lots of people go to Mexico and they see Mexico, or they go to the States or whatever, right? But if you don't leave your bubble and interact with other people, you'll think the East is Satan, right? Is just this evil place. But if you actually go to the East, it's a wonderful place. There are wonderful people there. One might argue some of the nicest people in all of Canada are sitting there, right?
Absolutely.
But all of our technology and everything, nobody talks, nobody gets the same message through. All that gets through is like, let's go at each other, right? Like we're combatants because we're on the opposite sides and have different problems. When, in fact, I know exactly what you're saying, right? Like all of us are pretty similar, just dealing with our own industries.
Can I go back to something you said there, Shaun? You said some of the nicest people in Canada.
Yeah, absolutely.
You're going to find in the Maritimes. I agree. There's some nice people out there. Do you know what I've found about Canada? I think specifically in the last year of my life, when I did this big trip across it, is that some of the nicest people in Canada are actually everywhere in Canada.
That's a very good point.
And the craziest thing about it is that they might not even know it, but you can bring it out in people. And that's one thing I've really noticed in interactions with a lot of people is that I'm going to say 9.9 out of 10 people that you meet, there is actually a very kind and good person living within that person that might be buried down deep through a few layers. And if people took interactions that they're having with other people and actually focused on bringing that parts of each other out, I think we would find ourselves living in a country that has a lot kinder people than we could ever imagine. It's just, it's very easy for us to be the first easiest emotion for people to go to is protection and to standoff and have to guard themselves. If you can break through that a little bit, man, we've got some badass people in this country, and not in a bad way, in a really, really good way. I found that pretty much everywhere I went this year, is that if you have no agenda and you can just be a genuine human with somebody, you can get very, very good results in your interaction with them.
And the one thing I would probably add on to everything you just said, which you're 100% right, is you did 21 states, and I married a woman from Minnesota, and they're fantastic
Minnesota's
people.
a great state.
Well, and I went to school in Wisconsin, and Wisconsin is Saskatchewan of the United States. Some of my best friends,
actually, yeah, absolutely.
some of my best friends from college come from. Well, shout out to Joe Belanger if he's listening to this. As he brews beer, he's got a distillery, or not a distillery, a brewery in Ashland, Wisconsin. And
Awesome.
he gets on me all the time because he listens to me all the time. And sometimes we're not loud enough for him. So Joe, if you're listening, I'm trying to speak very loud in here. But him and his father brew beer, and it is fantastic. And I went to school there, and it reminds me so much about Saskatchewan. It's eerie, and that's a different country, different everything. And like you say, you're absolutely right. Nice people are everywhere. And that goes for probably, well, we all know it. It goes for every country in the world.
Yeah, absolutely. Most of the countries in the world. And I think we can find a little bit of our hometown everywhere in the world. And I think I'm no professional on metrics or any of this stuff or whatever, but just from some of the stuff that you see in the comment section of the things that go on, is I think everybody can find a little bit of their hometown in Quick-Dick, if that makes any sense. And I think that's great. And I think if that can continue on and keep that mentality going, then I'd say mission accomplished. I'm not in this to make a whole bunch of money or to be famous or anything like that.
You're quickly becoming that.
It's really weird. I do what I do, and I've always done it kind of for people, that I know, and that I know what they're going to find funny. And, man, this is going back a long time. I don't know why I'm jumping to this, but there's a guy, right close to Tufnell here that runs an electrical company, and he's kind of good. He's a couple of years younger than me when we went to school, but I mean, you kind of just know everybody when you go to school in a small town, right? And we kind of reconnected pretty good when I got back to Saskatchewan here. And he said to me one day, he's like, you know what, I woke up, I was kind of having a shitty day or whatever, and things weren't going quite right. And then all of a sudden I got a notification that you put a snap up, and I watched it. And he's like, I pissed myself laughing. He's like, and then, you know what, my day was good after that, man. And I get a lot of that in the comment section of what I do. And, if that's the result that you get off of this stuff, I'll keep doing it. I've got everything. I've got a warm house to live in. I've got a great family. I don't need a lot more than what I've got. If you can give to other people and make it happen, then I'll keep doing it. Eventually, I would assume people are going to get tired of it. If they don't, then I'll just keep doing it. I don't foresee myself running out of material. There's a lot of stuff around here a guy can cover. And I guess it's just a matter of having the time to do it. And I just want people to be happy, man. I really do.
I think of what you just said there in that 2-minute spiel. That's exactly why you're going to be successful. That's exactly why you're going to continue to get a fan following that's bigger than what you currently have.
Well,
I sit down. What are you going to be? You're going to be episode 70. Do the math, Shaun. You're going to be episode 72, I think. God, I hope I'm right, because people are going to look at the episode number and be like, you fucked up.
What are you talking about, right?
But when I come on, now as I start to branch out and interview guys I've never met before, certain people just like, when you talk, they're so easy to talk to. It's almost like we grew up in the same little hamlet, and have the you're very easy guy to talk to. You're very you got a personality that's just enjoyable to sit and listen to. I mean, we're going on, I don't know, an hour and a half maybe now, and I don't like checking I don't like checking the clock. I honestly don't. And you know what's funny? The listeners, as they're listening to this, and I should lay out a couple things here. Lots of people go, oh, God, I can't believe we've been talking that long. And like, maybe we should shut it off. And I learned very early on, do not shut off a good conversation. People get very upset about that. But I also don't like
people out there still listening at this time. I'm just like, hey, thanks. That's fantastic. Good
oh,
on
no,
you.
no. Oh,
you
no.
Probably got more patience than I do. You know?
people, well, I'm one of them. I listen to, now you're getting me off track, but I listen to Joe Rogan. And when Joe Rogan has somebody interesting on, if they talk for 3.5 hours, I look at that and I go, man, they must have had something good to talk about. Like, that is some good chemistry to sit there and talk for 3.5 hours.
Fair enough, man. Yeah, absolutely.
The other thing is, I don't really don't like looking at the time, because I don't like to ever judge it by like, oh, okay, well, maybe we should wrap up, right? You could feel when a conversation's wrapping up.
Yeah, you can feel that. You're like, yeah, it's time. Yeah, no, I got you. Yeah, absolutely.
The hockey player. Oh, sorry.
Yeah, go ahead. No, what's up?
The hockey player in me wants to know.
Yep.
Saskatchewan has the most senior hockey teams, bar none, in senior hockey. I don't even know why I'm thinking about this. It has over 100. Yeah. I want to say like 104, somewhere out there. Somebody's going to comment and be like, actually, it's this. But, over 100. It doesn't matter.
Don't go to the comment section.
Foam Lake has a senior team, right?
Yeah, buddy. Yeah.
When is Quick Dick, and I mean, obviously, the season's toast and everything going on, but is Quick Dick going to do a hockey video? Because every small town has their senior team, and that is very, very, very specific to Saskatchewan. Case in point, Alberta has, I think, I want to say, don't quote me on this number either, 25, 27, and what's their population compared to us? Right? Like, it is.
No, that is definitely 100% a Saskatchewan thing. I'm not much of a sports guy. I don't know whether I didn't get the gene or what went on. I rodeoed when I was in high school and everything. And I mean, I played high school sports and a little bit of stuff or whatever. But just people ask me sports questions about a lot of things, and I'm just like, I don't know. I don't watch sports. I don't even watch TV. It's a disaster. I went to I'm getting off track in here. I wound up going to a Saskatchewan Rush game, which I wasn't going to go to. I was actually on a trip out to visit a brother, and I had some business to do and come back before we started cabbing. And I know a guy that runs the CPCA around there, and he helped out the Rush. And he got a hold of me. He knew I was coming through, and he's like, "Hey, man, they're doing a fundraiser for Operation Smile Canada, and you should show up." And I was like, "Dude, I'm already past. I'm like, I had a thing in Humboldt, and then I'm on my homies." And when he threw the Operation Smile thing out there, I was like, "Shit, okay, I'll come back because I like good causes like that, right?" So I ripped back, get some merch lined up to get out there or whatever, and got there, and I thought it was the Saskatoon Rush. Do you know how much shit I took over that? I even put this out on like my Instagram and all this stuff or whatever. Come see me at the Saskatoon Rush. What a dipshit! Like, I had no idea. And lots of guys like, "Oh yeah, it was the Saskatoon Rush and the Regina Rough Riders. That's what you're going to see there, right?" It was like, oh shit, I'm an idiot. But what do you do? It's just the way it goes, right? Anyways, that's how much I know about sports. But getting back to, it's actually, I've got so much stuff on the job board of stuff to cover, and that's definitely on one. Farm auctions is another one.
Farm auctions is good.
I've got to do, right? Farm auctions, or even if you can get to an auction ring and stuff like that, it's all just solid gold, and there's just so much fantastic stuff kicking around. It's like there's not enough hours in the day to cover it.
You couldn't have come on this podcast without me at least throwing a plea out for it, because I love hockey, and there's nothing more Saskatchewan than senior hockey. And you don't need to be a hockey player to enjoy that, because all you got to do is go sit in the stands and sit in the dressing room one night and have some fun. You'll get the gist of it. You've probably done that true. 10 times over.
100%. And so it's Foam Lake Flyers here is what our senior team is. And I mean, that is what you do on a Friday night in Foam Lake, Saskatchewan, is you go to the Flyers game, because that's where everybody's going to be. and everybody cheers and everybody talks shit to the other team, and you get a rink burger and you get your tiny little plastic drink.
Does Foam Lake have the best rink burgers ever?
Shit, man.
Oh, I hit a sore spot. They do not. Well, I tell you what, Hillmond has the best rink burgers ever.
Hillmond does.
Oh yeah.
So I've had it in 2 of my videos, and there is nothing you will ever come out of a rink ever with more respect for than a Peg Mac meal. And it's not a Big Mac, it's a Peg Mac, because the lady that makes it, her name's Peggy McLean. So we call it a Peg Mac. And it's at the Tufnell Curling Rink. And it's a double burger, cheese, onions. You got to fry up the onions on the grill. Then you get the toasted bun. And then you get 6 deep fried pierogies with it, sour cream. And
you realize her sales just went through the roof. Like,
there is no way they could go higher.
I kind of want to drive there just to see it.
It's worth the drive. Now, the Tufnell Curling Rink you got to watch because it's natural ice. So, I mean, if it's a warm weekend and you're expecting a bonspiel, you come ripping through, there'll be a sign on the door, be like, too much dripping, we couldn't have the bonspiel kind of thing or whatever, right? but it's yeah, it's something. I love the Tufnell Curling Rink. I grew up curling there and everything, and it's just a small 2-sheet Quonset natural ice curling rink, and it's just some of the best damn people in the world when you go there. It's really amazing.
How can people? I see you're wearing a QDM shirt.
This is kind of unintentional, actually. It was on the top of the clean pile.
Hey, once again, the Fourth Meridian. Hey, guys, there was nothing there.
Yeah,
wink,
it's
wink.
It's not product placement or whatever, right? Yeah, you know what? Actually, so this is a kind of a monumental point in quick stuff with merch. So I've had merch and done some stuff or whatever just to get to like just these tiny little local fundraisers that I can get to raise money for. We did a thing for kids sport here in Foam Lake. The Wadena Minor Sports Association and a few other things, and everyone is. I didn't expect it to happen. Everyone's beating my door down. They're like, "We need hats, we need shirts, and everything." I'm like, you want a quick dick hat? Like, are you shitting me?
I do.
I gotcha. And of course I'm this like made in Canada, be in Canada, everything in Canada kind of guy or whatever, and I started looking into some stuff. And a lot of this stuff that you get from people that order things and they order them cheap and try and make some dollars off them, and you get Gildan made in Bangladesh and hats made in China or whatever. You're wearing a Richardson snapback hat there right now, made in China, right? Well, here's some bad news that my first round of stuff is going to be printed on this stuff because I wound up actually teaming up with a guy in Yorkton, a local guy. Lots of people that do this stuff that want to get merch do print on demand, and get these guys in Vancouver and a few other places to do it, and that's just what they do. But I want to try and keep some business local, which worked out great because he had to close his doors to the public, and lots of sporting events and stuff where he does all his merch got shut down. So it took us a little extra time to get it, but he got what he could get a hold of, and we've got it printed up, and it's heading to a drop shipper next week. And the online store actually is going to be launched, which I got a girl that I used to go to school with actually built it up for me and some stuff. So it was kind of neat. It's all getting launched next week. So I don't know where this is going to air or what's going to go on or whatever, but yeah. Wednesday? Yeah. Well, that's actually right close to launch day. Yeah. So it's going to be quick.
Take a look. That's what you're saying.
QuickStickMcDick.ca. You're going to be able to get some merch next week. It's going to be available. And then actually, really cool thing, which in all of my spare time that I have with the stuff that I do, actually, I dug a little bit deeper and found a couple of companies that actually are making trucker hats and flex fit hats and stuff right here in Canada, which is awesome. So I'm waiting on some stuff to come in from them so we can check it out, and found some guys that are actually making shirts right from scratch, dyeing them and everything right here in Canada, and bunny hugs and everything. And so I've got them making up some samples for me and some stuff, and we're gonna actually have a fully functioning 100% Canadian merchandise chain going here by the end of the month. Actually,
that'll be cool, man.
I'm stoked about it. A lot of people that do this stuff actually even going to print on demand places down in the States, and Canadians that want Canadian artists or Canadian YouTubers or whatever you want to call them, they want their merch, they actually got to pay duty to get it across the border into Canada. So, I just off the start here was just kind of to keep our local guy here in business, and then we're gonna go with the exclusive Canadian line coming up here right shortly, which is, it's been kind of a neat adventure to go on, and kind of same thing. You dip your toes into stuff that you've never dealt with before, and it's the same thing. And like, hopefully, I mean, I always talk about leading by example with a lot of this stuff, and there's it costs you more money to get a hat made in Canada. It costs you more money to get a shirt made in Canada. But the only thing that affects is the bottom line of the person selling it. So if that person's willing to do business in Canada and say, hey, okay, well, there's $5 a t-shirt that I'm not going to get back, I'm not keeping any of this shit anyways. It's going to local community stuff. So who cares? Like, let's just roll and let's keep it Canadian and let's do awesome with it, right? So, yeah, merch coming in hot.
Well, I'll be as soon as you got a couple of things, I'll be all over it. I'm sure a lot of people will be all over it. Heck, that's why you're going down that road. I'm sure is because people have been asking about it, and heck, I'd gladly sport it.
I appreciate it. Yeah, and like I said, never in my life would I have ever expected people to want merchandise that say "Quick Dick McDick" on it. But if that's what the people want, that's what they're gonna get. Right? It's just hopefully everybody can have some patience with me. It's a bit of a learning curve for everybody. Even the printer that I'm using, it's a long ways out of his wheelhouse. But hey, we're doing what we can to try and keep his wheels turning through this thing too. Actually, it's a really cool story. He's actually getting guys he set up his business to run his guys that he would otherwise had to lay off. They're coming in on like 2-hour shifts, and everybody gets a little chunk of work every day. And it's not much, but it keeps the wolf away from the door.
Absolutely.
So I think it's just fantastic. And man, if there's anybody that runs a drop shipping company in Saskatchewan out there listening, hit me up. If there's anyone interested in starting one, hit me up.
There you go.
Yeah, it's crazy. Actually, that's a really crazy part of the whole industry that I'm starting to see, that there's maybe some need for some of this stuff actually in the prairie provinces, and that's a big thing that you don't see here, because a lot of logistical things where you can actually physically drive stuff across the border into the U.S. with some new trade agreements, you can actually do better with it. But oh man, like, where do you want me to start, stop, and end with this stuff? I've been a busy guy. There's lots of
I kind of get that. No, man, it's cool. My question is we got time for one more beer?
Yeah, absolutely, man. I got all the time in the world. Whatever. I don't even know what time it is tonight. I don't care. I'm good for the night here. See, I cheated, man. I got a 60-pounder of vodka here, and I don't have to move as long as I don't got to piss. I'm in good shape. You know what I mean?
You drink vodka straight?
Vodka and water. Excuse me. Throat's killing me today.
Where I wanted to go was, you're in small town Saskatchewan, the smallest of small.
Yeah.
You're running around with an iPhone or whatever phone, filming yourself. What on earth does your father think, or your neighbors, or everybody?
That's a really good question, actually. Even the guy, but it's actually, I'm going to do a shout out to Mark Rogers. Mark and Wendy Rogers actually owns the Bar Ranch where a lot of this stuff is shot, and to Greg and Leanne Dagnall Farms where a lot of this stuff is shot as well. They're all within 1.5 miles of each other, and I just kind of, I'm like a little pinball. I just run back and forth everywhere. Whoever needs help doing whatever kind of thing, we're just at it all the time, right? But Mark actually cornered me the one day, and there's even a thing when the CTV News actually came out to do a thing on me, if you can imagine that. But Mark is laughing all the time, and he's like, people ask me, they're like, man, like, when does he ever have time to get anything done? Like, all he does is videotape all this stuff or whatever. And Mark's like, you know what? To this day, I've seen him doing this 3 times, and this has been going on for months and months and months. It's like 3 times I've been like, oh, I see him talking into his phone over there, kind of thing. I think that's kind of a fun part about what goes on is I don't like people being around when I do it, because I kind of don't want people to see how I do it, because I think if people actually saw how I did a lot of this stuff, they they'd stop watching. Because it's so simple and ridiculous that really I like anybody can do it. And that's, I don't know. I think even like when I did that little quicks one and a few different things, and like there's going to be more of those coming up actually, because I had a lot of fun doing it. We need to get back to the point where, I mean, you can kind of get around some younger people, but I've got some good ideas of how we can make this happen as a social distancing kind of thing. It's so simple, and people have the ability to be creative, and there are very creative people out there that don't do it because they're, I'd say, afraid to take a step in the direction of being creative or to put themselves out there. And if anyone's out there that's listen, I just did this because I still to this day, I kind of don't care. Like, I guess don't take this out of context, but I kind of don't care what people think about what I do. I just kind of do it, and I hope people find it funny. And if I get a good response off of it, well, then I'll keep doing it. And someday, if I don't get a good response off it, I'll just be like, okay, well, that was fun. I can move on to something else, kind of thing, or whatever, right? But don't let fear or anxiety or anything stand in your way of trying to be creative or to be funny or to put it out there. The worst thing that could ever happen is somebody's going to be like, well, that's stupid. And that's just their shitty opinion, you know? And if it is, it is. So what? But like, I mean, I'm a guy that's got a phone that I started holding it sideways. I added some stuff together in iMovie, and I got a green screen that would people would be like, are you shitting me? That's how you do that? They'd be like, yeah, that's how I do that. But it's just, you just get creative and you think outside of the box and you have fun with it. And I think the funniest thing about Quick Dick and a lot of this stuff is that when people watch it, they're like, well, that's actually some pretty corny editing that he's got going on, but that's kind of what makes it funny. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like,
you talk about fear though, and people worry too much about what other people think at all times.
100%, man.
It's paralyzing. That anxiety is paralyzing for people. Because I know people that are like really funny or really like XYZ, whatever you want to, you know, and they're scared of their shadow because, you know, what if somebody doesn't like it?
Yeah, man. I really wish people wouldn't live that way, because it actually makes people that have a lot of good in them hide that good in them because they have that sense of fear in them, or that sense of, I mean, I despise the word anxiety, but I guess it's a thing that we use nowadays. So because everyone has anxiety. It's called being nervous, or it's called, you know, feeling awkward in a social setting and stuff like that. And you just need to get past it, and you need to just be like, you know what, I guess that's maybe what you see a lot in this Quick Dick stuff. It's just that I'm past the point of really giving two shits what anybody thinks about me. You know what I mean? Like you dive into the comment section of some of this stuff, and there's a lot of people that think some pretty terrible things about me, but that's okay. They can go ahead and think it, and they can type an essay on how they're smarter than Quick Dick in the comment section and all this stuff like that. And 9 times out of 10, I laugh harder at that than I do at some of the funny comments that people put in there. You know what I mean? It's just like, shit, man, that's cool that's what you think. And, you know, hopefully you can look at things a little different. Maybe there's people that put comments down in this stuff that are actually really, really good comments. And I've had a few come through that are such eloquent burns at me. And I have no option whatsoever but to respond to them and be like, that was just magnificent, and, you know, good point. You know, because I love it when people have their own opinion and their own point of view. It's kind of what makes us people. But I mean, man, you got to give credit where credit's due. If somebody gives you that hard of a burn, you just got to be like, hey, that was nice, man.
I got to ask, do you have one that sticks out then? Like a burn?
You know what? I do, and it's kind of a blur right now. And it was a lady, and it was on my Protest or Diets one. It was something along the lines of sheep and being a sheep following somebody kind of thing. she did it without swearing. She did it without being malicious. And at the end of it, and which is how I answer most of my comments, is I just try and be like, take care out there, friend. She did the same thing. And it was just glorious. I was just like, oh, yeah, you got me. Good for you. Good on you. And like, if there's any of those, I just wish I could figure out how to highlight them and put them to the top of the comment section and be like, everybody that wants to be pissed off at me, be like this girl. She killed it, you know? Because I like getting burnt too. I mean, it's the fun of it. It's what makes it fun, right? Like, I really couldn't give a shit if somebody makes me look like a dick cheese, because I kind of am. You know what I mean? It's okay, right? But I think if the world is like that, I don't need to be some genius that comes out on top all the time. If we're having a conversation, I can be like, yeah, shit, you own me in that one, but that's okay. And I'll sit back and I'll have a beer with somebody after it. You know what I mean? Because there's just no point in getting all worked up. Shape or lose sleep overnight on any of the comments that are on any of this stuff, you know? So, yeah, I think the goal is just to have people laughing at it more than anything, right?
Well, you do a very good job of both. You do a very good job making people laugh, but getting the point across about how ridiculous some of the stuff we're doing currently is.
Yeah.
And that mixed together is pure gold.
I think it's a better way. I think people receive it better. You know, it's this is kind of a little bit of a rabbit hole thing that I'll try and stay on the top of or whatever. But when you look at a lot of, and you never expect this coming out of Quick Dick's mouth either, when you look at a lot of environmentalists and the beliefs that they stand behind and what they're fighting for, a lot of them aren't wrong or bad beliefs. They want things to be better. They want us to do better with what we're doing so that we can sustain our planet for longer, kind of thing, based on, of course, information that everybody can find. And if you actually get to the root of a lot of oil field workers, and I mean, being in the Lloydminster area is a prime example, you know, of guys that are ripping around with a jacked up truck that love to pin it and get a big black coal of smoke rolling
They go
out
flying
of the
by my house. Well, they used to. Shouldn't say that.
Yeah,
Right now, they don't
like,
go flying, but they used to all the time.
Yeah, like, hey, boys, I hear you, and that's kind of, you know, badass every now and then or whatever. But that's part of the problem too. You know what I mean? There's got to be this area where people can kind of meet in the middle and be like, okay, yeah, you need to understand that there's still a large part of the globe that's going to rely on oil and gas products no matter what we do going into the future, because we want plastics, we want Kevlar to protect our armed forces and RCMP and everybody. We want medical grade equipment like syringes and a bunch of different things. I want my phone, I want my computer, my shoes, you know, there's so many things, the tires on my truck that drive on the asphalt that we drive on, kind of thing. Yeah, there's a lot of areas we can focus on where we can do better, which we need to. And I think we can as humans, but at the same sense, you can't just come at people and be like, your way of life's over, fuck you. And as a planet, we're moving away from this dirty natural resource. Well, now you're putting a person into a defensive mode where they're going to say, you can't take my job and my livelihood away from me, because that's how I support my family. And when you put a person's ability to support their family into a situation where that's being questioned, they're going to get defensive. And when people start getting defensive, bad things happen, right? And it's the same where a reaction back to somebody that's an environmental activist, you're going to be like, no, fuck you. You guys will never make it. You're not going to make it. And oil and gas is going to rule the world. And what would happen if we just shut the power off tomorrow? Kind of thing. Well, listen, we all know what would happen if everything got shut off tomorrow. It would be worse than what we're looking at right now. But I think this might be a time where we can all like take a moment and look at where we're sitting here right now and be like, there's got to be a way that we can go forward from here and all kind of move in the same direction at once, which is why way earlier on in our conversation, when I'm talking about Energy East and Northern Gateway Pipeline and a lot of this stuff, and us fixing our economy to get a lot of these products to a global market, for us to stop importing what we're bringing in and just be able to self-sustain a little bit. It's a great opportunity for Canada to go forward from here, whether we're going to take the step in the right direction or not. I feel like I already know the answer to that, and it's a little bit disheartening. But this is an opportunity where if we're going to start throwing around, 1.7 to $2 billion kind of thing on orphan well cleanups, I hear you. But why don't we spend a little bit more than that on something that's going to bring us a little bit of revenue back to us that we can start building towards nuclear technology and enhancing green technology and a few of these other things and work towards being better. It's just not the direction we're programmed to head in as humans, unfortunately. And a lot of us are going to sit here and fight each other over it when in all reality, at the heart of all of us, which goes back to what I was talking about earlier about getting to the heart of a person when you can bring out a good person in everybody. If everybody brought that heart of them out of there, or what they're looking for, there's a really good chance that you'd be able to mesh that and make something happen. But these humans are kind of going to stand against each other, and I'm going to be left wing and I'm going to be right wing. And I mean, hey, guilty as charged right here. I might be one of the worst guys that we got the wrong government running our country right now. But like we said earlier too, it's not like the alternative is going to fix it either. It would take a very, very massive change in leadership and direction that somebody wants to take the country that we have, and start putting a cap on some corruption and just saying, no, we're going to do what's best for Canada right now, not what's best for my retirement portfolio kind of thing. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I think most people just kind of fall in the center. And I think that's where you go with,
I agree.
With people being just generally good. I think that just we all kind of fall in the center. We from one side, we want to help people. We don't want to pollute the environment and everything else that we live in.
Mm-hmm.
But on the flip side, you got to understand what a lot of your videos talk about, right? Like infrastructure and what we currently live is one thing. And if we're going to get away from that, that's great, right? You want to harness the power of the sun and have the cleanest energy possible, then we have to find a technology that can harness it. And until that day, unless we're going to all move to, I don't know, California or Florida or something, right? And just throw an extra 30 million people in there. Last time I checked, a week ago it was minus 20. And today it was +6. And +6 felt like +50. And I was ready to go out in the old Speedo and really give the neighbors a show.
I hear you.
But we live in a
what
place.
A show it would have been. Yeah.
Exactly. But I mean, like, we live in a place that, most of us just sit in the center, right? Like, we understand both sides. I don't understand why, every bloody video that shows conservatives or liberals talking to the other side is just straight on yelling. It's like, you talk about leading by example. The example that our leadership shows right now, which is crazy for a government, is the way you talk to your opponent is by yelling at them the entire time. And it's like, well, that doesn't solve anything.
Yeah.
Even if you got a good point, that isn't how you talk to somebody.
Yeah, that's exactly it. And I mean, even getting down to, directly answering a question or something like that you might ask of somebody to do. Maybe that's a very well paid member of a political party. I mean, just answer a question. If it's a yes or no question.
Are you wearing shoes today? Well, today I went to the beach and I was out there. It was a lovely walk.
We recognize the importance of wearing shoes and how the shoes were manufactured. And we would like to ensure.
Can you tell me if you're wearing shoes?
We would like to ensure the Canadians that there will be an ample supply of shoes for them to wear at some point in time. They may be Velcro, they may be lace up, but they are going to be ethically sourced and produced and available when they need them.
Mr. Speaker, are they wearing shoes? And then sit there, and you're like, what the hell am I watching? Like,
that's kind of why I don't watch that shit or whatever. You know what I mean? Because it's just,
very true.
But it's we have a really good opportunity to go forward from here, and we always have, and I think we always will. And what it's going to take is, when you see guys like Kenny that made a really big move on a very substantial investment into something like KXL. That's guys that are tired of waiting on a federal government to get things going on, and are just going to start making a move. And everyone's like, okay, well, but here you are, you're giving our crude away still to the States or wherever. Well, great. So it's a great first step, like we talked about before. And then maybe if we get things going east and west, I mean, that might be worth more going south. You see guys like Doug Ford making some big moves, Scott Moe making some good moves. There's a lot of good things happening interprovincially right now. I think that people need to focus on a little bit more, because there are some good things happening out there. And it really, really starts to make you question of, well, what if we have premiers that can actually work together, or do we have a federal government for? You know what I mean? And that's obviously nothing you could ever replace or get rid of, kind of thing. But it's just, there are some good leaders out there right now, and I think a lot of them are doing a great job. Some of them aren't, and that's always going to be the case. But all we can do is just hope that we're going to move forward out of this in better shape than we are right now, which isn't going to take a lot. And hopefully this isn't going to last a lot longer, because I don't think any of us want to see the results of that either. You know what I mean? We do need economies moving. We do need things moving forward. And it's a challenging time, but human nature is to overcome challenges and to move forward, right? And no matter what happens, I mean, that's clearly what we're going to do in one way or another, right?
Well, I couldn't agree more. So let's hop into the Crude Master Final Five. Huge shout out to Heath and Tracy McDonald, supporters of the podcast from the very beginning. And they are a trucking company, so Hammer Down is an apt reference.
If they are a trucking company, then let's throw a wall-to-wall treetop tall and a big 3s and 8s on them, and we'll catch them on the flip-flop. That's fantastic.
I don't know why. I just remembered your video of the different
the Saskatchewan wheel wave?
The wheel wave.
Fantastic, man.
Oh my God.
That's been years of honing that skill. I've put millions of kilometers on behind the wheel of a truck. Like, I have a boots on the ground trucker. I love truckers. Have got such a soft spot in my heart. I love them.
So here's the crazy thing. My dad is a trucker, right? Drove across Canada all the time. I think I told you the story about when we were younger. My next oldest brother Harley and I hopped in a truck with him. He drove all night to get us to the Blue Jays home opener. And then at the Blue Jays home opener,
so fantastic.
He falls asleep in left field. The home run gets hit right in front of us. Everybody goes nuts. He's still snoring away, right? Then we go back to the truck after the game. Blue Jays lost. Yeah. But it was still a good game. Go back to the truck, and he parked in a mall parking lot. Well, now it's full, and he's driving his semi over the curbs to get us out of there. Absolutely awesome.
That's just the dedication of a father to get their kids to a game, Yeah,
here's a. I don't talk about this very much, but this is supposed to be the final five. We'll get to that in a second. Is my grandmother, who's no longer with us, a while back, but at that stage in our life, or my parents' life, and I mean, I was just a young kid, we didn't have a whole lot. And so Dad was long haul trucking. I want to say like 27 days of the month. That's what I always remind myself. Like 27 out of 30 days a month, he was on the road trying to make ends meet. And so that's why us kids got in the truck with him, is because we just want to spend time, right?
That was your time with Pops, 100%.
So what my grandmother did was baked a full-on grocery bag. Like, I'm talking hundreds of cookies of ginger snaps. And if you've ever had ginger snaps, they're great. But when
if you haven't, you have wasted a better part of your life not having them, and that's what's going on. Yeah.
Well, they got so hard because they dried up because, they're open air. So what we do is we wake up in the morning and put them all over the heater vent, warm them up, and then eat ginger snap cookies along the way. That was morning snack. That was breakfast.
Popping them down on the defroster.
That's right. Oh, it's perfect.
Real nice. That's fantastic. Yeah. No, that's great. Yeah. And that's like, man, your dad, like, just trucking them hard to get you guys to a game, having a nap there. And I'll bet you, like, after you left that parking lot, probably drove all night again that night or whatever.
Yeah. You had to get to your next, right? You had to make the destination. And it's kind of what people forget at this time. And I might be stealing some of your words, but people do forget that it's going on constantly.
Absolutely. So let me ask you this, like you're saying, we didn't have a lot of money around, and we went to this ball game, and people nowadays would look at that and be like, oh great, so you drove in a truck while your dad was working to a Jays game or whatever, and then got back in the truck. But tell me at that time that you didn't feel like the richest kid on planet Earth when that was happening.
I try and remind myself of things like that because
right?
what more does a kid need than just the attention of his parents?
Like,
Essentially.
did you not feel like you were on some kind of a magical planet there where you're like, money's endless? We're at a game.
I slept in a truck, woke up, we're at the Sky Dome. Back in the Sky Dome's heyday. They're the Blue Jays. I'm sitting in left field. This is awesome. I got a foot long, which was probably only 6 inches, but at the time it felt like a foot long, right? Like I'm over the moon. We're doing the wave. Like I remember that day better than most days of my childhood because it was phenomenal.
So
I agree. Yes.
That's probably one of the best shout outs to your dad you get to do is telling that story because it's how much it meant to you, right? When we were kids, and we'd just go 2 miles up the road to a lake that was close to us and pitch a tent for a night or whatever. And we thought we were on a different planet having the most amazing time on planet Earth in some magical wonderland. And all we were doing was roasting a pack of Schneider's hot dogs on a twig and burning a couple of marshmallows. But it's what your parents could make it. And that's, that's something that I feel like really is really missing from modern day society here now is those kinds of adventures being something that were treasured, and it didn't cost you an arm and a leg. You didn't need Wi-Fi. You didn't need any of this stuff. You just went and had fun with your parents, and they were the most entertaining people on planet Earth. And I'm thankful every day that we were able to have times like that. Right?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's go to the first question here.
Okay, fire away.
What is Quick Dick's drink of choice?
Okay, well, drink of choice. I'm a vodka water kind of guy.
Vodka water.
I love vodka. I like an Irish whiskey every now and then. I like to drink some Jamesons on the rocks if I'm feeling a little bit rowdy. But my go-to is vodka and water because I love the taste of vodka.
How come Quick Dick then isn't drinking a vodka water in his videos? Is it because it is a ploy? You're putting in some subliminal messaging? They paying you Quick Dick?
It's not. Then I'd look like Julian from the Trailer Park Boys walking around with an open cup kind of thing, and it'd be slopping shit all over the place or whatever, right? If I'm on the go, I drink a Great Western beer. I love Great Western beer. I love beer. I'll drink it. I'm a pig. I'll drink anything. But if I get to pick, I'm going to drink vodka and water.
All right. If you sat down with one person, who would it be with vodka water?
Sat down with one person with a vodka water. Oh, man. Straight up, Big Mustache Al and my brothers. That's it. I absolutely love my family. And we're at the point in our lives where Big Mustache Al tells the same story over and over, but I'm at the point in my life where I could sit and listen to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I know what he's going to say next, and I just wait for it like I don't know what's coming. And there's no better audience to that is when I'm with my brothers. I just love my family to bits, and if I was sitting down to have a drink, it'd be those fellows that I'd sit down and drink with.
Question 3 is a two-parter. Mm-hmm. What is the hidden gem of Saskatchewan? You seem to know an awful lot about Saskatchewan. Is there a place that is a hidden gem?
Yeah, it's So it's the Bellevue Batoche area in Saskatchewan is it's beautiful. It's some steeper hills and some rolling hills, and I went through there one fall when I was hauling grain a long ways back in my career, and I didn't know such a place existed in Saskatchewan. It was like it had come off of a postcard, and that was, if I can think back to a time in my life where I was like, that was really a point where I really started looking closer at the province, that I live in. That would have been it, because it's like I just did not know places like this existed in Saskatchewan. it's really, really beautiful, captivating country.
How about on your bike trip? What was the hidden gem there? If you would go back through the entire trip, if there was, and I know that's there's probably a few hidden gems, but that's okay.
It's a tough one, but actually, it's pretty obvious too. There was an event that I'd say was a momentous event, and then a place, and I'm going to pick Canada. There were some really cool places we saw down in the States too, but Canada for sure. Man, that Terry Fox Monument in Thunder Bay, it was a really strange way. I ran up there in the rain, and when I got there, the sky had kind of cleared off a little bit, and I was actually overlooking Superior. What a spot! What a spot they built that in, and just a great tribute to Terry Fox. It is an amazing spot. It was a very moving moment in that whole trip that I was on. It's an incredible place. It's amazing.
What's one term only recognized by, well, I shouldn't say one. Yeah, no. One term only recognized by Sask people.
One term?
Yeah, like one slang, saying, word, whatever you want.
You could have this debate. Oh, man, there's so many things coming to mind right now, but there's one that just stands out there. It's bunny hug, man. Like, that is it. This is the only place in the world where it's called a bunny hug. And that's it. Everywhere else, it's a hoodie or sweatshirt or hood sweatshirt or whatever. And that is it. Like, I've had this, there's like putting it in the rhubarb. There's, a lot of I had some Saskatchewanisms on a few of the ones that I've been in or whatever. And you kind of catch little pieces of those all over the place. But the only place where it is a bunny hug.
Do we know why it's called a bunny hug?
I have no idea. It makes no sense to me. It's got to like.
It makes about as much sense as Tom Thumb in hockey. Wait,
I don't know what that means, but sure.
Wait, is Tom Thumb not a thing where you're from?
You say Tom Thumb? I have no idea what you're talking about.
So Tom Thumb is like initiation in hockey.
Okay, so that's your initiation is Tom Thumb.
Yeah, I always thought it was all Saskatchewan, but obviously that's not true.
But I have declared in this podcast that I am not a sports guy kind of thing. So maybe I missed that part in my upbringing. I'm not sure, but you know what? I've learned another new thing here today. So
Urban Dictionary says bunny hug. Possibly the best word to describe a hooded sweatshirt. Only used in Saskatchewan, Canada. If it's used in other provinces, they look at you funny. Isn't that
straight up truth, man?
Truth, man. Yeah, that's true.
Yeah, straight up true.
All right, your final question before I let you go.
Okay.
If you could have anyone, and I mean anyone, guest appear on Quick Dick McDick, who would you want to just all of a sudden poke their head in and say hello?
Oh man. Do they just poke their head in and say hello, or do I get to talk to them a little bit?
Oh, sure. You can. Yeah, you can talk to
them. Oh man, my mind is running at 100 miles an hour right now. Yeah. Well, I mean, the first thing that popped into mind, obviously, is I'd love to have Trudeau on. I would love to sit that fucker down and just. CBC can't cut away. They can't do anything or whatever. We're just going to sit and talk. And I'll go live with the nation. Like, I don't care. We won't cut it. We won't edit it. We won't do anything or whatever, right? But I don't think I'll get that opportunity.
Something tells me you're not going to get that opportunity.
Yeah, I don't think I'm going to get that opportunity. Oh, man, there's so many guys that would be a blast to have on. But, like, you kind of think a little bit about, like Canadian icons a little bit too in comedy. Man, like if you could have a guy like Steve Smith on who was, like Red Green when we were growing up was like, that was such great stuff to watch. So
if women don't find you handsome, they should at least find you handy.
Yeah, Adventures with Bill. I mean, how does it get any funnier than that? One of those.
I gotta be. You know what? Before you go any further, That right there is a very Canadian show, and I don't know if anyone.
It so is, man.
I don't know if anyone in any other planet would ever get that show.
I don't think they would, but and like you go back to a lot of the stuff, and like I'm just a guy that talks into my phone, but the amount of work these guys went through to get the following that they had, like to get on to Steve Smith was on the CBC when I was a kid or whatever, but I mean just to get a show on something like that, the hoops you would have to jump through to make that happen, the work you'd have to put into it. I could see how they'd look at a guy like Quick Dick McDick and be like, yeah, congratulations. You talked into a phone and put it on YouTube and now people watch you. You know what I mean? Like I'd be pissed off too, right? But great comedian. It was always such a good show. Another one, lots of people have like mentioned Rick Mercer in my comedic style kind of thing, which is like such a compliment. And I mean, I feel bad for Rick Mercer having me compared to him in any way, shape, or form, because he's such a great Canadian and such a good comedian. And always had a great way of kind of politically correctly going about his ways. Awesome comedian. There's just been so many great comedians come out of Canada, right? So, I mean, any of those, just like popping their head in on Quick Dick would be, man, just something. But yeah, I think most of the people following me wouldn't mind me having a little conversation with old Justy there. But we'll go ahead and not have that happen, I guess. So
that'd be literally epic. You surprised the shit out of me when you said that. But yeah, that would be unbelievable.
I think you could have really that. Great.
You could have that as a pay-per-view event.
Pay-per-view event.
And it would probably fund so many projects in Canada alone. It'd be well worth it.
I hear you, man. But I mean, I think that's just I don't know. I think that's just my thing. I was lucky enough to get onto, on the Gormley and a few other things. And we did some live stuff at the Sasquatch game and a few other things, whatever. And I don't know why I feel calm doing that kind of stuff. And like, people be like, well, if you ever did get in front of Trudeau, what would you say? And I'd be like, well, like no different than you and I are talking right now or whatever. I mean, it's just straight up. I've got some questions. I'm sure he's got some questions. He's going to do his best to make me look like an asshole. And let's be perfectly honest, I would hope that a guy that's running our country, that's got an education and is working in politics and everything should be able to make me look like an ass, though, shouldn't he? Like, I mean,
I just try and remember. I try and remember what my brothers have told me. Anytime I get, I did Paul Bizanet a while back. Biz Nasty, Spitting Chicklets, right? Okay. And it took about 2 minutes until he started talking tummy sticks and making fun of me, and then it was just like. Right? Like, then we're into it. All right, here we go. All right, I'm feeling good. All right, okay.
And on with it, right?
Okay,
yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
But, I mean, we're all just human beings. We all put our pants on the same way. God, you'd hope Trudeau would be able to at least talk to you. Some of the videos, you wonder, but at the same time, that's probably the world having a way with some editing and making it hopefully worse than it is. But then again, I've seen some videos and I've seen some live. I don't think he'd talk you under I don't think he'd win that one. I got to be honest.
I mean, whichever way it went down wouldn't be a problem. But I mean, it's just the fact that, I mean, he's a guy that's trying to speak on a lot of issues that, maybe needs a little more life experience on what's going on.
Maybe just a bit,
maybe
just a bit.
And like I'm a guy that has a political opinion that's been very much a hands-on, boots on the ground, working kind of guy my whole life. And there's a lot of things that I obviously don't or wouldn't or never would understand about foreign policy and some different tax pools and companies and a lot of other things too. So I mean, we've all got our strengths and weaknesses where we're going to be like, okay, well, this is why I'm doing this and this is why you're doing this kind of thing. But don't know if that's quite the case with that situation. But we're not going to get hung up on politics here, right? That's where we're going. Right?
Well, hey, man, I appreciate you coming on and sitting and shooting the shit for well over 2 hours now. So, I mean, it's flown by. But I mean, really enjoyed it and really think really highly what you're doing. Like, look forward to, I never got to be on the Snapchat list, but I get to see the YouTube videos, and anytime a new one comes out, it makes my day.
Well,
I
I
have some
appreciate
laughs
them,
on
and
it. Yeah.
yeah, and thanks very much for having me on. It's the first podcast I've ever done, man. So yeah, no, thanks very much for having me on, and keep giving her hell out in that Lloyd area there, man. I know a lot of people out in that area, a lot of good folks out there, and hopefully we can get through this little situation we're in here sometime soon and get back to normal, and just keep being the kick-ass Canadians we can all be, man.
Right on. Well, thanks again for joining me.
Awesome. Thank you, Shaun. Take care, man.
Hey folks, thanks again for joining us today. If you just stumbled on the show and like what you hear, please click subscribe. Remember, every Monday and Wednesday, a new guest will be sitting down to share their story. The Shaun Newman podcast is available for free on Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and wherever else you find your podcast fix. Until next time.